hope it's recording. Let me stop the share. Anybody could tell if it's recording?
Yeah, it says recording.
Excellent. Okay. So we're going to, I didn't have time to write a whole review. So we'll just start from like a certain space. I'll say what I just know by heart, and then we'll continue. And then Alter Rebbe goes into details. The beginning is the introduction is really like sort of like a synopsis, and then we're anyway going to hear it again when we're going to get through with the words. So basically, the Alter Rebbe is saying through the Sheva Brachas, the brachas of the Sheva Brachas, that every single word is like very, very precise. So if something's extra or something's less or something's more, it has very, very deep meaning. So the fact that it says Shama ba'arei Yehuda, in the future we're going to hear in the cities of Yehuda, Kol Chasam v'Kol Kallah, the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride, is very significant because it's different than the one bracha before, which says Kol Chasam v'Kallah, like as if they're one. There's something very significant about it, and the Alter Rebbe says that is foretelling of how we are going to transition into the days of Mashiach, and where it begins the process of ushering in Geula begins with the voice of the feminine being heard. And till now, she had such a bright light that she was suppressed until we had the Kalim and the wisdom and the knowledge and the maturity to be able to slowly but surely reintroduce this very, very high light, which is the feminine light. And that includes pleasure and physicality and emotions and the body and anything that is feminine. That is a very, very, very high light. And it is very, very powerful because it is able to do things without control and force and negativity. It is so powerful that just bringing that energy, it uplifts everything. It takes the world from symptom, from concealment into revelation. It's very expansive energy, but it has to be used right, or else it can be very destructive. As much as it is expansive, it is also very destructive. If as high as it is, as low as it could go, if it's not used correctly. That's why Hashem protected that light, and that light is accessed through the pneumius of our heart, which we're going to get into the Alter Rebbe's, in the Tanya it says that, and that gives us straight connection to the whatever Hashem wants to express through us, direct, and that's the Ratzon and the Tanuk. So we understand how, like, what needs to be coming through when we connect to the pneumius of our heart, which the Alter Rebbe says in this mimer as well, where as we get closer to Geula, we're going to be more connecting to our pneumius, and that's where we're going to access the real truth of Hashem, and we're going to be able to know Hashem very intimately because of this whole process, and then we're going to be one with Hashem and have pleasure in that relationship. It's just something that we were not able to do if we did not go through this whole Galus process. If we would have opted out, we would have been still probably in the world above, maybe Yetzirah or Yetzirah. Is it Yetzirah or Bria? And it would have been a whole different life, but in Gan Eden. But we wouldn't have had this intimate pleasure relationship with Hashem. We wouldn't be able to be one with Hashem. We wouldn't know Hashem on an intimate level. So that is the process. But now, as we get we're starting to usher in Geula, we are bringing in that light, and this is the feminine's piece, and this is like the part of them that is their truth, and so they're finally coming into their into full alignment with themselves. And when somebody is in full alignment with themselves, they don't have struggle, and that's how we become Kula Tzadikim. And it also affects everybody else because they could become into alignment with themselves, and everybody becomes Kula Tzadikim. So that's a very beautiful process. Okay, so we're going to start from where I believe that we left off. Okay. I just hope nobody's left out. Like last time, I hope people are able to come through. Okay. So I'll start from here. So page 6, whoever, I sent it out on the WhatsApp. Javi, is Javi's writing something? I don't know. Let me see. Javi, what?
Sorry, what were you asking?
No, did you want to, something, I don't know. I just was wondering if you want to say something or share something or.
No, I was just making sure that people can get on. I was just writing.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Like if anyone's having trouble getting on, because usually more people by now. But so now, yeah, thank you so much. So okay, I'll officially start. So throughout their engagement period, I might have said this last week, but it's good to get in from here. Page 6. Throughout their engagement period, Yisrael's relationship to Hashem daily ripens. Okay. It is not a time of passive waiting. Only active preparation will do. Our task is to labor in Torah, to release its hidden teachings, and allow ourselves to be transformed by its truths. Each day, Bnei Yisrael exposes another layer of concealed lights, and soon there will be no secrets left. So what you understood yesterday is not, today is a whole new story. As we integrate it, we could go higher. The Torah's soul-satisfying wisdoms will illuminate every question, resolve every doubt, and explain every suffering. The fullness of divine light will shine through the Torah and fill Bnei Yisrael's collective heart, bones, cells, and spaces with holy presence, which is quite interesting because that's what the Yirmiyahu says, that when we are in the time of Geula, Hashem will communicate to us Bikir Bam, like in our beings, like we're gonna have all the information, and that's like gonna be the Torah. The revelation of the Torah is gonna come through our bodies and through our whole insides. And Yirmiyahu says, and this one you'll be able to keep because that's gonna be in alignment with your truth, straight from Hashem versus the other way that we receive the Torah, which was through very suppressed, I would say, chitzonius, and the Alter Rebbe says more chitzonius understanding. But as we get closer to Geula, we're going to be able to receive everything straight from Hashem. And then we could always look in the Torah to see how it's actually there in the Torah, the same things that Hashem's communicating. Then we understand the Torah, the same Torah on a whole new level. There will be no place inside them that is not permeated with God, and nothing with God that does not fit inside them. A perfect marriage, a consummate union of glory and awe. This transition from betrothal to marriage happens through the gradual integration of surrounding lights. The transfer of consciousness from above to below, from its infinite source on high to its final expression as expanded awareness in the minds of mankind, follows one path of descent now, in the engagement period, and will follow an alternative route in the Messianic times. You see what I'm saying, right? So now it's coming through the Chachma, through the mind, right? And that's superficial. In that same Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that when we connect Hashem through our mind, that only allows us to have a superficial love of God. It's like a created love. It's not a real love. When we connect to Hashem through our body, that is the alternative route in the Messianic times, and that allows us to be one with Hashem, to be totally in love, in pleasure, and that whole, it's called Ava B'Tanugim, the love of the lights of Hashem, which we could only reach through our bodies and hearts. Now this stepwise relay of consciousness begins with mother. Oh, Partsuf, you know what Partsuf is? It's the whatever, I can't pronounce, I'm not very good with the grammar, but it's like there's the mother, the father, the child, all that in Kabbalah, all these terminologies. So that's a partsuf. It's like a profile or something, persona. Okay. So now the stepwise relay of consciousness begins with mother, who passes it on to man, right? So it goes to Bina, and then it gets passed down to Zah, the Zerampin, which is the masculine emotions. He internalized what he can, and the rest spills over as a surrounding light. Man, okay, which is the feminine, then separates out a portion of his newly integrated lights. Oh no, okay, man then separates a portion of his newly integrated lights and passes them on to women, right? So we know all the, like the women didn't learn Gemara, we didn't learn the Talmud, we didn't learn halacha, all these complicated things. They integrated it, they understood it the way they understood it, and they passed it down what they thought that we need in a way that we could receive it. That's what we got from, so it came from the lower 11 into the 10, and that's how we receive the Torah. Okay. The rule is stated thus: the higher the parsuf, the greater its capacity to hold light.
Right.
Consequently, at each transfer, only some illumination actually fits into the vessel below. The rest gets displaced into a ring of transcendent awareness that holds all the possibilities of future apprehension, and that encircles the head of the lower parsuf. In this way, each upper level becomes a crown to the level below, which is really, we could see that in our lives right now, because the Hasidus was said many years ago, and yet that nothing changed, and yet we're understanding new things, because every time we read it, we've expanded our vessels, and now we could contain more light, so our eyes are open to more. So so before that it was like transcendent crown, the information that we couldn't process and we couldn't understand. Once we're able to process it and to handle it, and so then it's part of us, and that's how it's that is how we become one with the things. And then there's more that is beyond us to grasp. And then when we have the right kalim, because we're doing all this work and we keep on learning, so that allows us to go higher and higher. The more we internalize everything and put it into practice, the bigger our kalim become, and then we could handle even more, which is really what is happening as we see for ourselves. So it's fascinating that we are living in the times where all these words are actually true, in reality. So this is the order of descent in pre-Messianic times, while the moon is diminished and woman's stature is less than man's. In this configuration, woman cannot access her own transcendent lights, for she cannot reach them on her own. She needs man to draw them from mother and pass them to her, but she's not going to get even anything she's not going to really get her light, because it's not even really accessible to man. Okay. Woman's preparation for marriage requires that she heal all traces of diminishment and retain her full stature. Consummation can only happen when man and woman matches from the crown of their heads to the soles of their feet, and this is only possible when they meet as equal statures. As long as woman remains diminished, their union can never consummate and marriage cannot happen. Wow, this is heavy duty. What this is saying is that in order to have a real unified relationship, a woman has to be totally like the total feminine embodiment. You know what I mean? She has to have all her lights. She has to be totally true to her, authentic and true to herself, so she could bring to the table the gifts that she brings to the marriage. And a man has to be a real man. You know what a real man is? He helps the woman feel safe. He always has solutions for her. He's like, I have your back. He calms her when she's all emotional and erratic, right? He's the support system. He's she could relax because she knows that he has everything covered. He has her back. It's all good. So in order to really have a marriage, you both have to be equal. Equal doesn't mean that we're both men, both women. Equal means that woman has to be true to herself all the way, have her lights, and bring to the table what she's supposed to bring to the table. And the man has to be a real man and really embody his whole manly persona in a kedusha way. It's a beautiful thing when a man shows up as a man and helps you feel safe and secure and loved. That's a beautiful thing. So if the woman remains diminished, right, and she doesn't have all of her lights, the union can never consummate and marriage cannot happen. Of course, you get married, but it's not considered the real ideal face-to-face marriage. Then explains Alter Rebbe, the relationship evolves to a higher level still. Woman recovers her full stature and then supersedes man. When this happens, their polarity inverts. Now she becomes the crown to her husband, holding the superconscious lights that are destined for him, but which he cannot reach on his own. Okay, so what this means is that it's not that she's like more important than man. It's that she has, her truth is that she is a very high light. It's a light that doesn't have limitations, and that's why, you know, the man helps her, you know, contain her light. You know, that she could use it if she feels supported and loved. She could, you know, use it without like going crazy. You know what I mean? Like you gotta. It's a very, very high light. So she becomes the crown, and she inspires him, which we always talk about in the classes we did, the class that we did with the Chafei Shvat, right? That she takes him out of his symptom because she brings in this light that takes you out of, you know, constraint, right? That expansive light, Harchavas Hadas. She's the one. That's her light. When she fills herself with that light, and the home is sorry, feels expansive, then that's how she like sort of gives him. She becomes the mashpia to him because she helps him get out of his limitations just through her energy. It's an energetic contribution. It's like Shabbos, right? Shabbos brings in a certain feeling. And when you know, and there's an eineg, okay? So when you have that feeling, you're in a different state. Sorry. Okay. Since she can now, okay, like a rubber band, stretched and released, she springs beyond man, becomes the intermediary in the relationship, a service he will have provided for 6,000 years. Since she can now access levels that he cannot, she transforms their illuminations to him, some of which he integrates and some of which he cannot, for his vessel of consciousness is too small to contain them. Instead, they encircle his head as a crown, fulfilling the verse which states, the woman of valor will become a crown to her husband. Okay, so that's why we always say, you don't have to explain everything that you understand about the 11 lights to your husband. Maybe he does, as much as he could understand it in his mind, there's nothing like understanding it in an experiential way. And that's something, it's our light. So we're the only ones who could really have real das about it, in the way, in a feminine way. So it's not something we need to explain. It's just something that we bring to the table, and there's no need to explain. They just are uplifted through this light, and they love the energy that, and the beauty that we bring to the table. We're so beautiful inside and outside because our midos are so beautiful. When we're able to use our lights, we become so much more calm and sweet, and it's just a beautiful energy. Okay. The seventh marriage blessing depicts this shift in the polarity, of man and women with its closing words. Blessed is Hashem who rejoices the groom with the bride. Its use of the word with as opposed to and, the word and in the sixth blessing indicates that woman is now the primary source of joy, right? The primary source of joy, right? That light that we bring. And man comes along with her. In the first 6 millenniums of history, consciousness and its joys flows from man to woman. But this dynamic will change in Messianic times. The superconscious lights of God's awareness will pass first to woman and then afterwards to man. So the Alter Rebbe depicts this gender transformation as a 2-step process. First, woman comes into her voice. Her current lack of voice manifests in 2 ways. Now her betrothal happens through a one-way flow of speech. The groom talks while the bride stays silent. Okay, he gives over. This is what the halach is. This is what it is. There's nothing to argue. You're a woman. This is what it is. She's quiet. And actually, when she has her light, she doesn't argue. The beauty is that she doesn't argue either. She lets him think that he's right, but she just brings in that light, and that changes everything. He pronounces his intention. Behold, you are sanctified, betrothed to me, and she does not respond. Her silence expresses her lack of protest, which establishes the criteria of mutual consent. Their engagement with all its contractual responsibilities activates by her muteness. Second, the Shemona Esrei, the epitome of prayer and woman's essential expression of divine service, as opposed to Torah study, which is man's, is a silently offered prayer. So there's another example of the woman when she is silent. So Shemona Esrei is sort of like expressing that aspect of the feminine. Okay, now I'm going to say one more thing, and then if anybody has anything they want to say and share. So the seventh marriage blessing reads, let there soon be heard the voice of the bride. The Alter Rebbe reads, this is an invocation. Let the bride come into her voice. Let her express herself and project herself in fully audible speech, the very opposite of the whispered prayers we now employ in Shemona Esrei. Okay, anybody have anything they want to ask or share or?
Yeah, it's interesting that you read, it says that, we don't really have a marriage until we're really truly in this feminine energy. So just something that I was thinking about, that I've been thinking about in general, but just to express that, like, it's so scary to really change the dynamic and really, like, change the dance. Like, there's certain expectations that we make our relationship based on, like, we're married and we fall into this pattern, and that's everything we've known, and this is the marriage, this is how we relate. And stepping out of that is like stepping out of Mitzrayim into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important to realize, like, yeah, but we could logically say, but this is what our marriage is, this is the expectations, this is how we relate, how are we going to connect otherwise? And to realize, like, it was everything we know, but like, to truly have a marriage, we have to do this work. So we're letting go for something that's so much deeper and so much truer, and we're all learning on the job,
Yeah. So that's what it's like, the midbar sort of, and we're like, oh, it's so much better Mitzrayim. It was much easier. Like okay, yeah,
But it worked.
We got starved, yeah. But we had onions. It was so good. We had garlic. It was really amazing, right?
Right.
So that's, but the truth is that's and I was actually speaking to Nacham about the Shechina. It's just fascinating about the fact that when we receive, when we express our midas, right, our attributes through the understanding of the mind, which is chitzonius, it was the external understanding. So that's when we have the struggle of the Beinani, because we're not truly in alignment with ourselves, with our truth. And only when we express our midas, the same midas, but access through our heart and body, and that tells us exactly how much chesed we should have, exactly how much gvura we should have, based on the pnimius, then we become totally in alignment and we become kula tzadikim, because that is like allows us to be true to ourselves, and then we're not struggling anymore. It's just so beautiful. So like, it's like that Shechina that was in Galus, that was the part of ourselves that was, shut down and didn't allow us to be perfect and be true to ourselves. So it's just fascinating to really.
Yeah. I also, like, something that I'm thinking about in general, and I want to express it because it's something that was confusing for me, because when we say, like, this light and being in our feminine energy and, like, doing things that give us pleasure and joy, then we're in a state of joy, and then we're attractive, and our husbands are attracted to light. But for me, I'll tell you where I got a little confused, because then it was like, okay, well, when I'm feeling down or sad or worried or whatever, that's not in that feminine energy, so that's not attractive. But it's like, it's so important to, like, really find, like, it's really balanced. Like, yeah, on one hand we could talk about all our malchus stuff and all the things we learned, and it's like that crown, right? It's like way above them, but at the same time we have to be authentic. So it doesn't mean always being
right, because it's not always right. The light is actually not always pleasure and joy. It's also being like you're validating your emotions, and it's actually when a woman is vulnerable and she says, you know what, this was hard for me or whatever, and I need a little help, and she's actually weak, that's also very attractive. So there's so many different aspects. It's not all pleasure, it's authenticity. That's what it is. It's authenticity. Yeah.
So I noticed, like, there was something that I was dealing with emotionally, like, this past week, and then I was a little down, and it actually affected my husband, and, like, it didn't even, like, I didn't even realize that it was, but like he was acting in a way like he was just acting funny because he just didn't know what to do with my allowing myself to sit with my emotions, you know?
Wow.
So just like I just, I'm sharing that because like, what do we do in that situation? We need to allow her. Sometimes we do feel that way, and it's okay to feel that way.
Right.
And so husbands in general want to see us be joyful. So when we're not in that joy, how do they deal
but you
with
know
it?
what? But when we're not joyful but we're vulnerable and authentic, that's also attractive. We have to remember that part too. You say, you know what? I had a hard day. That helps them. Like they could comfort us. They need to feel like they're the saviors, right? They're the heroes. So there's so many ways, there's when we're in pleasure state mode, they're able to get out of their limitations. They're more successful. They could be, but there's also the part that allows them to be heroes and be there for us. And then when we thank them, that was so nice of you that you just held space for me or whatever it is. That's equally that's very connecting. That's
right. But it doesn't. It doesn't happen. I just want to say it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, sorry. I'll just say, and then I'm going to mute myself. It doesn't, like, I know for me, I'm practicing that, just to be perfectly honest. And my husband gets disappointed when I express my truth because he loves when I'm happy and he loves when I hold space for him.
Right.
So right now I have to be patient. Like, it's not like attractive yet for him. So
100%. It's a new language. It's a new language. So, it's not that you're always attractive. That means that's a very big pressure to always be attractive.
Right, exactly.
It's being authentic to your light, and that light is very like multi-dimensional.
And even if it's not attractive yet, we still have to do it. We have to do it even if it's not attractive yet.
But but it is in a certain way. Once they appreciate that they could become the heroes, then it is attractive. Like sometimes that they could be when they know how to respond. They might not know how to respond yet. Once they know how to respond, and they feel like, oh wow, I uplifted her. I made her feel so good. Just by being, showing her I have her back, or I care about her. That also. So, but that's just we're learning the language. So it's not always, roses.
I think a big key what you said was the fact that we have to make them feel like they have to find a way to feel like they're our hero.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, and that's a big key because as soon like if they feel that we're just in our feelings and they don't know what to do with it or how to help us, like. We kind of have to show them how to help us in the beginning so that they see
you
that.
Can even say, you know what, I could use this, or I could use a little this, or, maybe, not telling them what to do, but just like saying, I could use a little uplifting or, maybe, whatever. I don't know. We have to find the language.
But need a hug if I need a hug, if there's that ability, those type of things, 100%.
Right. And they make a big deal about it. Like, oh, that meant so much to me, that you were there for me when I was down, and then they feel, oh, I was a hero. I could do it again, so we're learning the language. We're in the midbar. We're not in Eretz Yisrael, but
Bracha.
Yeah.
Bracha, hi, this is Simcha Chaya.
Hi.
Thanks so much for this ongoing inspiration. It's so appreciated.
My pleasure.
I just wanted to say something about this with the marriage. It's like a joke with me and my husband, but it was really like a learning process that like I would tell my husband, I say, look, I have something to share, but don't say anything. I just want you to hear me till the end. So he so it's very funny because he he closes his mouth in a way like, okay, I'm doing what you're asking. And then it doesn't come like in a way of control. It comes like, like it's funny. So so I'm going on, I'm talking. And he's like closing his mouth and he's like, he wants to say something, but doesn't say anything. I'm like, I didn't finish. I still have what to say. So what I'm seeing also in the feminine is that it's like not guiding them, but in a way, like really saying what I need. Like, I need you to listen to me right now. I don't need any advice. I don't need, or also like to give a little bit of like a head start. Like I'll say, look, as something happened, I'm really upset. I don't want any advice. I just want you to hear me. So it's like a joke by us already. Like, okay, like he closes his mouth, he puts his hand on his mouth, like he's not going to say anything. And then after a few minutes, he's like, he's just silent. I'm like, okay, you could talk now. Like, so it's funny, but also in a way, it's done in a way that, like you're
being very clear on what you need from him, right? You're being very clear, right? Exactly. In a very respectful way. You're not demanding anything. You're just saying, like, I really want to be heard. I don't need advice. If you could please do me a taiva and listen to me, and just hear me. I don't need
Exactly.
any advice, but I just want, you could do this for me. And then when he feels so happy that he did that for you, that's the same thing. That's the 11 light. Like, I mean, it's like, it's not just pleasure, but there's a pleasure in feeling heard. Okay, now you have pleasure. You felt heard. There's a connection. He doesn't have to understand anything that you're saying because your light is so different, but he just has to just listen.
Right. And just to finish,
That's
just something else very
yeah.
quickly also, that once I remember, like, I don't know, he said something, whatever, and it wasn't what I wanted to hear. It wasn't, bringing me any result or anything. And I remember once saying to him, I said, look, I need you to say this and this and this and this. So it was funny. Like, I would share that. And then he was like, okay, what is it that you want me to say? Okay, I'm going to say this and this and this and this. And he would say it. And I was like, okay, that's exactly what I need to hear. That's it. I don't have to hear anything else. And
exactly.
I know it sounds a little funny, but
no, but it's true. It's like
it was very cute. Yeah, it was really.
He feels he could help you in a way that is helpful to you. You know what I mean? That because he doesn't understand. He doesn't have to understand you. He won't understand you, but you're guiding him as, what could you do for me to make me feel better? And you don't even have to understand anything I'm saying, and I don't need you to fix it. Right?
Exactly. I'll talk to my friend for that. Right. I'll talk to
exactly.
Or
exactly.
someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah. Now we're going to continue. So okay. In the future, woman will return to her root and receive her light straight from the very source of consciousness itself, the inwardness of the infinite light. So that's the higher 11, and we access it through the pneumius of our heart, the Ratzain and Tanakh, and also the body helps us, determine if we're getting it right or not. And then the mind, once it came through our body and heart, the mind helps us be mevarer, like to figure out what it's like the mature aspect. It helps us figure out what to make of it. But the truth is that's the truth, what comes through. Then how to express it, the mind now could help out. Just like the man, once the woman, knows what she needs, now he could come forward and help her figure out how to put into place and put into practice. The relationship between groom and bride and Hashem and Kallah will then be fully consummated as woman attains her full stature, and now they meet at every level of their beings. Woman will recover her voice and the roles of man, and woman will invert. Man will receive his light and bounty from the transcendent levels of Hashem via the agency of woman as his intermediary, a state described by the seventh marriage blessing. Blessed are you, Hashem, who rejoices the groom with the bride. All the promised pleasures of the Messianic times are merely effects of this profound shift in gender relations. This is amazing. This is just unbelievable. And now we are getting into the actual text, and we're going to, just go for another 10 minutes, then we can discuss, and then we'll finish at 2:00. So I'm not going to read the Hebrew, but the Hebrew's right here. So blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who created joy and gladness, groom and bride, mirth, glad song, pleasure, delight, love, brotherhood, peace, and companionship. Hashem, our God, let there soon be heard in the cities of Yehuda and the streets of Yerushalayim the sound of joy and the sound of gladness, the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the groom's jubilance from their canopies and of youths from their song-filled feasts. Can you imagine, like, just the scenery of this is what Geula is? It's like a party. It's like amazing, like especially in Eretz Yisrael, right? You can imagine the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, which I believe is going to be the whole world, but just that atmosphere and that energy, and everybody is like, Shabbos in Yerushalayim, that beautiful energy. That's Geula. It's just so beautiful. Blessed are you, Hashem, who gladdens the groom with the bride. This is the last of the 7 marriage blessings. The special praise recited under the wedding canopy and at each of the 7 celebratory meals in the week following. The language of its bolded lines is curious for several reasons. Okay, so here are the questions that the Alter Rebbe asks. Number 1, why is the closing line of this blessing only subtly different from the one that precedes it? So the one that precedes it, which is the 6th one, ends like this: blessed are you who gladdens the groom and the bride, not the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride, right? It's like one thing. While the 7th ends with who gladdens the groom with the bride. Sorry, I made a mistake. This is 2 separate things. Okay, so number 1 over here, it's saying that there's a difference between the 6th bracha and the 7th bracha. The 6th one says, blessed are you who gladdens the groom and bride. And the 7th one ends with, blessed are you who gladdens the groom with the bride. It's different. It's im hakala and vikala. It's two different things. So we're going to get into what's the difference. The difference between them must be significant enough to warrant both blessings, right? They're two separate blessings. If they were both saying the same thing, you would only have one. So what's the difference? Otherwise, one of the prayers would be redundant and its recitation would violate the prohibition of taking Hashem's name in vain. So that's one question the Rebbe asks. Number two, why is the blessing stated with such urgency? Let there soon be heard, like Meheira Yeshama, quickly, the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride. Okay. Number three, next question. Can you imagine on such 2 sentences? You have so many questions. What is the connection between the raised voices of groom and bride and their joy at coming together? Okay, there's kol chasam v'kala and the chasan im hakala, right? So what's the connection of them, the joy at coming together? Why is the blessing stated in the future tense as if only then will their voices be heard, but not now in the present, right? So Od Yeshama Ba'ari Yehuda, like in the future, but let it be quick. Meheira Od Yeshama, right? So why is that? But why is it not now? And really the answer is the things that we answered above, but now we're going to break it down into the actual mimer of the Rebbe. We're going to see it inside. Why is the prayer careful to explicitly mention the word voice, both in relation to the groom and in relation to the bride? So he says, let there soon be heard the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride, when it could more simply have said the voice of the groom and the bride. So the answer to these questions draws its illumination from the body of Kabbalistic teachings called The Diminishment of the Moon, a collection of mystical writings that elucidate the mystery of gender. Interesting, I never learned that. So here, okay, the sixth Shabbat Brachas, which ends with the phrase, who rejoices, the groom and the bride, describes the relationship of male and female in our present fallen and exiled state. But the seventh blessing, which reads, who rejoices, the groom with the bride, right? So the difference is groom and bride, it's like one thing, versus with the bride, applies to the future and presents the ideal and perfected endpoint of the collective marriage between men and women as cosmic archetypes evolving through time. The blessing describes a two-step process of realizing its vision. The first shifting of relationship is described by the phrase, then will be heard the voice of the groom and the voice of the bride. Only once both voices are heard can the last phase of history begin, where the groom now rejoices with the bride. Okay? Since at present the voices of the bride and groom are not both heard, the reality of the sixth blessing applies instead, and a lower state of joy binds the groom and the bride. For whatever level of joy you could have in a marriage that's not ideal, that's what you have. But there is better. And it's when everybody is true to themselves and everybody knows their place and they support each other with their gifts. And it's like how do you call this? Synergy or whatever it is. It's a beautiful, if everybody brings what their strength to the table, you have something so much more beautiful than when people are just guessing at what they should be contributing and it's all chaotic, and it's just a whole different experience, and it's a whole different outcome. Okay. So now we're going to get to, so the difference between these two blessings and the three-step sequence of relationship as they describe is known to all versed in Kabbalah. In the future era described by the seventh blessing, when the groom rejoices with the bride, their polarity of giving and receiving will invert. While generally the male bestows and the female receives, then the awakening of joy will originate with the bride and only afterwards spread to the groom. And this is what the Rebbe teaches in the Chaf Beis Vatzicha, that if we first fill ourselves up with that pleasure, including healing our emotions and being authentic, that's also part of it. It's not just self-care. Part of the self-care is also listening to your body, healing your emotions. You're not always feeling amazing, but tuning into it is the energy that takes everything out of Tzimtzum and into Geula. Because, you're honoring the voice of the heart. There's a lot of secrets of Hashem in the emotions. There's a lot of secrets of Hashem in the body. So these voices are heard. And when we could be true to ourselves and be relaxed, it allows us to be relaxed, and we don't feel like we have to always be busy. We could just be natural. It's a state of joy. Even if it's not
Rafa,
always perfect. Sure.
Can I say something?
Sure.
No, it just struck me, the Knesset's theme this year was the Kallah Rebbe. And it just struck me after the Knesset is over, like, oh my goodness, everything we're learning in Malchus is really the Kallah Rebbe. Like, just like what you're saying now, that it's it's this pleasure, all this pleasure that actually allows us to be able to move forward.
Yes.
We've until now we thought of Kallah Rebbe as something that we have to push through with tense and stress and just move forward. Even
Amazing.
And now the Kallah Rebbe is
like,
fill
you don't have to even do that. It's like, well, what should I do? Should I schlep it like this? No. Just go to your 11 and everything will work out. You just fill yourself up with pleasure. And we see this. And you see, what's fascinating is that we're living it. We see this. So many of us who are doing this Avaida are seeing this playing out, where when we choose to connect to our higher 11, it's like, oh, I didn't even have to say anything. It already straightened out. Or, oh, I didn't even have to make the phone call. It's the person called me. Right. It's like, instead of making ourselves so crazy, sometimes what you just need is to be in that light, and then it activates Hashem's the Kuchabrichu, and he brings everything to you. It's just beautiful. So it's the Kallah Rebbe. What do you even have to struggle and make yourself meshuggah? The Kallah Rebbe, just connect to your 11 light, and when you know how to do it, the arts, and things work out much better and easier.
Right, and that's strength, right? Because the Rebbe said, it's the strength as well. It's light, strength, it's everything.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Thank you. Conversely, in the sixth blessing, which describes our present fallen state by the phrase, who rejoices the groom and the bride, the situation is reversed and the arousal moves from groom to bride. Since the kindling of joy starts with him, the verse describes the sequence of joy as starting with the groom and afterwards with the bride. So it's Sameach HaChasan im Kallah. All right, so that's okay. And then what's the other one? We'll see in a minute. Okay, what time is it? Okay, so I think we'll just do one more. Okay. So to understand the reason behind this shifting of the polarity of joy's flow, that now it passes from groom to bride, yet soon it will emanate from bride to groom, one must first understand the difference between betrothal and marriage as sequential stages of connubial commitment. Besides their literal application in every wedding ceremony, they also mark the path of Klal Yisrael's evolving relationship with Hashem and the Torah. Betrothal and marriage are precisely defined terms in Jewish law. Betrothal is a legally binding commitment to marry. Though the couple is not permitted to relate sexually, in most other respects, they are if legally married, and the dissolution of their engagement requires a divorce. And then the second level of marital commitment occurs when the bride formally enters her husband's home. The wedding canopy symbolizes their coming together under one roof, and so affects this change of status. The marriage is finalized by its physical consummation, which is quite, so we're going to end over here, but it's quite fascinating because this is what, it's so interesting. Like sometimes, like, I so appreciate that we learned the Chaf Beishvat Sicha first, because now we really get what this mimer is saying. Because we understand now that beforehand, we were only able to, before we access this light, we were only able to access, everything through our mind, okay? So that allowed for a very superficial relationship with Hashem. We didn't connect at the heart. We weren't true to ourselves. So that was like an engagement. We weren't intimate with Hashem. We weren't able to be intimate. So it was like, we have that relationship. We're committed to Hashem. We're his people. We sort of like, we have to do mitzvahs. So, we spread the awareness of Hashem in the world and all that stuff. But we're not in that beautiful marriage relationship that works, where there's no pain, there's communication, there's, just that whole beautiful, everybody's showing up the way they're supposed to. And then so that's one thing. And then the oneness, they're saying, is the intimacy, right? And we're understanding from the Chaf Beishvat Sicha that when we connect our Ratzin and Tanug and bring down and express what our Hashem wants to express through us, it's like we're totally out of the way, and Hashem, that's the revelation of Atzmos. Hashem is like being true to himself through our body. So we're like one with Hashem in that way. So that is like the intimacy with Hashem, which could only happen once we could connect to our feminine, higher 11 kayach, because we could, we could allow Hashem to come through us in a real way through the ratzon and tanug that comes through the pneumius of our heart. So that is finalized by the physical consummation. And this is physical consummation when Hashem can be expressed through our body. So it's not us doing it, it's Hashem is sort of experiencing the pleasure. I mean, we're feeling it as well. So that's like the consummation, like we're one with Hashem. So, okay, so that's for now. Anybody want to share anything or questions or?
Yeah, hi, Bracha. I would like to share something.
Sure.
So while you were saying this, just an insight came up that, you say, you have explained before about us not being in the way, and allowing Hashem to express himself, to be intimate with us in that way. And I was thinking also like that when we, oh gosh, what was I going to say? While you were talking, it came, and then like, I don't know if I'm going to remember exactly what it is, but it's basically that, when you were saying about the engagement. Okay, so the engagement, so like you're engaged only in your mind, but then when you're intimate, it's like with the body, with emotions, all that. And
beautiful.
It's like a totally, like a totally different thing. But also it's like when we allow Hashem to express himself, he has like full, I don't know if I could say this word, but it's almost like I don't know, I used to say in my class, Hashem is very polite. He's not going to bombard himself on us. He's going to only going to come where we open that space. And then when we open it and it's not like the vessel is open and it's empty. So then, so many miraculous things. I mean, I'll just give an example. Today, I wrote, what is my desire today? And what came up was that I wanted, connection with friends. And it's amazing. I made one phone call and then I had like 3 people calling me, like one after the other.
See that?
I just made all these connections. Like, okay, all I need to do is, and I was just, showing up like, okay, I'll do my dance, my davening, whatever, but no agenda. Like it was just, this is my desire. This is what I want. And then Hashem, it's almost like we give space for Hashem to also
show up
who he need. For him to show up. Just like a woman, she shows up as a woman, so it attracts like the husband, the man.
That he could be the true masculine and bring her his gifts of what he could help her with or whatever. So that's beautiful. So like if we think we have to do everything, that's like crowding out the man. But if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and take care of ourselves and express whatever it is, then he has that opportunity to know what we need and how to show up. And then he feels amazing because he made us happy. And we're seeing this. It's so beautiful to be teaching it now when we're really seeing this in our lives like never before. Like there's so many stories and
I
we're
want
out
to
of the
share with you a
way and
miracle.
Hashem shows up. That's Kutcha Brichu, by the way. Who's telling your friends to call Kutcha Brichu? So he's mamish coming into that. We're mamish marrying Hashem right now. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to share also like another miracle. Like literally this is so like amazing what is happening. Like you were sharing that when we step into our malchus, so then, other people step out of their limitations. So I have one son who's extremely talented and very, very smart. He knows a lot and he's working in a regular place. And I always knew like he has so much potential to be a shliach and to influence people and teach him and whatever. He's like really good and everything. But, I never said anything or anything like that. So I'm doing my malchus thing, whatever doing. And my husband 2 days ago tells me that this son, he's like, he wants to go on shlichus. Like out of nowhere. I didn't say a word to him. I didn't even daven for it or anything, even though my friend said, look, when you're dancing, you're davening also, you're painting, you're davening, like you're in this deep connection with Hashem. But it was so beautiful. It's like, he's just looking for a place and he wants to go on shlichus. Like, what like these miracles just all like just opening, like just us being who we need to be allows other people to be who they need to be and for them to show up in that way. So that was amazing. That was amazing. Miracle.
Thank you for sharing. So this is what we're living. So it's so nice to learn it And it's not theoretical anymore. It's really, really happening, that we just have to want it. We let go and we'll let Hashem show you how, how it's going to show up. And it's just, it's beautiful. Anybody else?
I'll give two. Also, something that I realized within this, the past few weeks that might just be very helpful, because it's something that like clicked for me. I was actually telling Simcha Chaya this morning that I realized that when we feel uncomfortable, like our body feels uncomfortable, like sad or lonely or disconnected or whatever, we're still very trained and ingrained and like to, not to avoid that feeling. So the first thing that comes up, I know for me, it's like my mind tries to distract me and be like, oh, maybe I'm just bored and I should go and do more. And like, like I got so into this like pleasure thing, like maybe I need to do this, maybe I need to do that. And then like when I stop, I'm like, oh, my mind is going there because it like wants to control, and it wants to like be Hashem, right? And like come up with a plan to get me out of my pain. But if I stop and I realize, oh, why is my mind telling me to go back to like old behaviors? Because it must be uncomfortable. And then it's like, what is this uncomfortableness? Why am I comfortable? Oh, because underneath that there's a desire. And then it's like, oh, what am I feeling? I'm feeling lonely. Okay, so what desire do I have? Like Simcha Chai said, like, oh, maybe it's like I have desire for real connection, or maybe it's a desire to dance, or maybe, and it's so powerful because I realized, like, just in continuation what you were and like what Simcha Chai was saying, it's like so powerful because when we're uncomfortable, the pain and the discomfort is always because Hashem is shaking us up and saying, okay, no more status quo. Like you're fine. You're satisfied with, just beans and potatoes, but I want you to have meat. So I'm making you uncomfortable. And then you say, ouch, what is it? Oh, I want meat. So it's like when we realize, like, first of all, if we want to escape back to old behaviors, it means that our body is wanting something. Second of all, if we're uncomfortable, Hashem is saying, you have a desire. I love you so much. I want you to express it so I could show up for you. And then it's like, what do I want? I'm lonely. I want connection. And then boom, like Hashem just like makes it happen because we didn't take control and we expressed our desires and we were brave and courageous enough to go into that feeling.
Right.
It's like, it's just so profound to like, I feel like
beautiful. For
me, I feel so much more empowered and strengthened as I go forward with this new Avaida, because if my mind tries to trick me again, I feel like I have so much more clarity of why I get those ruts and to hopefully stay more.
And you have experience, right? Because when you say, hey, that, I knew what to do last time, so now I'll just do it again, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, you could once again be confused and think you have to go back to the old ways. And no, I succeeded. I found something more beautiful when I went inside. I dug deep. So I'm going to, do that same digging again. And it's Hashem schlepping us out of Mitzrayim for something better. And Eretz Yisrael, that's where we're heading. Beautiful. Okay, anybody want to share anything else before we sign off? Okay.
I wanted to share something really quickly, Brian. Yesterday I was by the keynote, I was sharing with Nechama, and there were like, I don't know, almost 1,000 people on the thing. And I was like, oh, I want to share. I always like to talk, whatever. I like to connect. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just pause for a second. Like, do I really want to share, or am I just getting into the, like everyone's sharing, so let me just share. And then I took like a pen and a paper, and I just wrote like my whole life story in like 2 pages, like really quickly. Like, how I came to Lubavitch. I also grew up from, and, I came to Lubavitch afterwards, even though my parents sent us to Lubavitch when we was younger, whatever, the whole thing. So I wrote it down, and then I was, okay, do I really, really want to share? Or is it just like, and I was like, you know what? I do want to share, but I want to share in a way that, like, I just want to share because I just want to be who I am. Not because I want anybody to say anything or to validate, or I just want to, and then just those few seconds, few moments of pausing, what my real intention was, it just gave it such a new energy. And I felt when I was sharing, I felt it was just so balanced and so healthy and so myself. And so this, like you say about really being tuned, like not just do, because everyone's sharing, everyone's doing this, like really, what do I really want, and what my real intention is. And and it just felt so good after I shared that way. It was like, wow, like this is my truth, So I wanted to share that, like, how we're applying all these things that you're teaching, It's like so amazing.
From Mindy to everyone, you spoke nicely, Simcha Chaya. She said you spoke nicely. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. Like I know, like I deal with people and they say, like, trying to figure out a strategy, like, oh, you have to do it like this because this is how this person thinks, and that, this is how that, and you have to do it like this. And I'm like, yeah, because you're just thinking in limited ways. But when you bring Hashem into the picture, then all the way they operate is totally irrelevant. And I've shown them time and time again. I'm like, look what happens when you bring Hashem into the picture, and everything comes towards you. But they're still stuck in their thinking, but they at least say, no, that I'm right. Like I showed you already a few times. Stop worrying about what everybody thinks. Be authentic to yourself. When you're authentic to yourself, you bring Hashem into the picture. It doesn't matter the way everybody does things. Hashem comes through in a whole different way. It's just Baruch Hashem. It's quite beautiful.
I know Simcha Chaya and I speak a lot, apparently. So, but I do want to say that this morning, what Chavi said about Alter Rebbe, and then what you were saying, like, my husband, like I said something to my husband, and then he got annoyed at me, like he was frustrated. And normally, I just, like, if he's frustrated, that means automatically I did something wrong. Like I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it's just an automatic thing. Like if someone's frustrated, that means for sure, And this time he got frustrated, and I realized, I was like, I'm practicing this. So I looked at him. I should have said, ouch, but I'm working on that. And I said, excuse me. And I just like walked away. And I was like, I took the kids, we went to the car, and then he left me a voice note. I'm sorry, Nechama, I don't know what's up with me. I'm so irritable. Like, wow. I really, really am so sorry. And I was like, wow, like, just to give an example to reinforce that, like, I didn't say any, I didn't apologize. I didn't talk to, I didn't tell him not to talk to me that way. I just was authentic and took care of me. And it gave him space to really see what he was doing and acknowledge it. It was like very powerful.
Wow. That's beautiful. Baruch Hashem. Wow. Yeah. All right. So that's it. It's 2:00 and to be continued. So and it's great seeing everybody. Okay. All the best. Take care.